Hello, and welcome to Podzar Access Humboldt Interviews, the Mike and Mari Show. And now, here's your host, Mateo Noche.
Hello, and welcome to Podzar, which is Access Humboldt's interview with the Mike and Mari Show. My name is Mateo Noche, and I'm here with Mari Magaloni, Michael Bossier, and Cal Ball of the Mike and Mari Show. Welcome, guys.
Nice to be here, Mr. Czar.
Thanks for having us.
Do we call you?
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
And I want to also, in the way of thanks, I just want to say thank you for all the great Mike and Mari shows that you've sent our way, and really appreciate it. A high quality show. And I guess my first question is, what exactly is a Mike and Mari show? Anyone?
Anyone?
I'll throw that out for the
Bueller? Cal, do you want to define it? Cal is our producer, and we call him El Genio, the genius producer.
My thumbnail sketch of the history. We met through Mike and Mari have been performing for longer than they will allow me to talk about throughout all of the Bay Area and actually all over the country and internationally. I met them through a show that goes on every year called the Big Fat Year-End Kiss-Off, which features Will Durst. And they've been doing that. I think, Michael, you've been doing it for 25 years, Mari for the last decade. And this is how we met. We initially had the notion that, I have this small studio and they have sketches. And the idea was, I wonder if comedy in audio still works. Right? I mean, we're all old enough to remember back to our favorite records. My God, I'm old enough to remember running the grooves off of Bob Newhart. And we loved them then. So that was the notion, if you will, and we began. And so it quickly turned into, I think Mari or Michael or both came up with the phrase of theater of the mind, right? Combining the sketches with some production value, putting you in the place and in the time of the sketch. We thought it worked very well. Very happy with the results. And so we went on doing that, but came to the conclusion that, these folks' roots are in theater and in stand-up. And this is where we were going. And we had our first premiere theatrical performance booked, produced, directed, ready to go. Hello, March 3rd. 2020.
Yeah.
And that was the end of that. And so we said, we have two choices. We can sit on our butts and do nothing, or we can go back to our roots, if you will. And we began to produce the sketches again, along with videos. And then we were very, very fortunate to, and I mean this sincerely, to run into you and KZZH that said, hey, we would consider putting you on. And the rest, as they say, is history. But seriously, it's wonderful for us to have KZZH and a couple of other stations in Northern California. And Matt, you really introduced us to the entire concept. Here's community radio, here's what it looks like and all of that. So thank you very much. I hope that answered the question. It was a bit long-winded.
No, that's fine. So political comedy in 2021, what is that like to navigate? Because, I guess some people will find it funny. Some people may find it offensive, or maybe, I don't know, not to their liking. And how do you navigate, that kind of fine line of being funny and not being attacky and not being,
Could you ask the same question to Fox News?
Well, their comedy is unintentional comedy, of course, which is the best kind of comedy. But no, if I get the
trying to change anybody's mind, we're preaching to the converted, because there's a lot of converted people out there. It's basically helping people navigate the actual political climate. I mean, now that the other guy is no longer in office, you think, well, what can you do? Sarah Palin just came down with COVID. I mean, it writes itself at that point. You know, the irony is just right there on its face. So people who, you're not going to win anybody over going, well, that's funny, I think I'll change my opinion. But to the people that are like-minded, because I mean, they're the same people that watch The Daily Show, Colbert, Saturday Night Live. There's a whole generation that's grown up with political comedy. But to the people that don't.
Yeah, I also, we're facing really serious times right now. I mean, the Capitol was stormed by white nationalist, white supremacists. I mean, this is heavy times, and we are unabashedly preaching to the choir, because we need to, I really believe we need to come out as a community of people who are progressive, who are, inclusive, who are compassionate. And sometimes you can feel very alone, and it is frightening to confront them, right? So I think that there's value to saying, no, we are here, we are together, you're not alone, here's the community, and to fill yourself up with the joy and the purpose, right? So and unabashedly, I don't mind if we're going to be confronted and confront people who don't agree with us. That's all right. And we try to also kind of keep to the theme, general themes, because you're right, the news changes so fast, right? And it is so extreme that it's almost a parody of itself. You just can't believe what you're seeing. So we really focus on the impact, just a regular person trying to navigate. So, the politics impacts them, the tech impacts them, the economy impacts them. So we kind of tell these stories of these, and, just individual human beings trying to just navigate. And so it keeps it more, the themes are more, long lasting, more.
Well, but I'm going to add, however, to your very good question. You can't imagine the number of hours that we spend in this room behind me talking about where that line is.
Right.
What's funny, what isn't. And this is particularly difficult. I've learned from my comedian friends here is that the answer to what's funny is the audience will tell you what's funny. Well, we don't have one that can give us feedback.
Right.
Right. But there's a lot of discussion about where's the line. You don't want to attack too much. You don't want to be gratuitous. You certainly don't want to strip anybody of their dignity. There's all these types of discussions, to your good question, that happen constantly.
Yeah, we never want to diminish anybody, but comedy is a great way to pull back the power of powerful people.
Yeah, I was thinking of your skit on the Conways.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was a fairly, I don't want to say gloves off treatment exactly. I mean, it was funny in a sly way, but I mean, it could have been, you really could have dug in on Ms. Conway, but I think you made the points without, like you say, being gratuitous or, insulting, exactly,
Oh, I always ask myself, is it funny for somebody smoking pot, wearing headphones, eating a bag of Cheetos? You don't. I played a bunch of cannabis clubs, and you tell the same joke over and over, and you still get the same amount of laughter. There's funny, and then there's why it's funny. But the funny is, in the particular Conway sketch, it was about the idea of what a sitcom is and how you update the sitcom to today. So you take the Conways and put them in the format of the sitcom. That in itself was the piece, rather than particularly skewering the Conways. So There's a lot of thought about how we package these things as well.
Sure.
Well, I'll add, it's a great sketch to pick out for this question, because there was a long discussion about how much do we go after Claudia,
None.
the daughter, and it was decided we're not gonna.
No.
She's gonna stay away, and be respectful and focus on George and Kellyanne.
By the way, and just sort of pivoting to the music, that great Herb Alpert, sound like theme in there. I really, I was like, that was very, the vibe was all there for Herb. I really enjoyed that. And maybe we could talk about the music and where that comes from and how that's developed. Because it's all original music, right? For all of the shows.
There is always an original music component. The theme that you hear is so let me back up. The original music component is generated by the Tiger Club.
Right.
The Tiger Club is anywhere from a 7 to a 17-piece band, depending upon the configuration. Created and led by a gentleman named Baxter Robertson. Baxter and I together produced the last record for the Tiger Club. So we try to include a featured Tiger Club song in every episode, although in some episodes you'll notice that we're bringing in other guest artists for music. Some of the music, such as the one in the Conways, is sourced, meaning I have several sources of well-produced music that I will go in that are in libraries. And then the trick becomes, okay, what works here and what doesn't? So it's a combination of those two things. That one piece that you referred to, I think it's called Acapulco by a composer, and just so well done. And it's just struck me. It's like, okay, yeah, this works. So it's a combination of those two, either sourcing it or picking something out of the Tiger Club archives. But the fun part is the theatrical part, going back to that. If we have a show that justifies it, it's an awful lot of fun to see the comedians on stage plus the full band and the combination of those two things. Yeah. It's really unique.
It kind of recreates the whole idea of the old-time radio shows, the Jack Benny shows, Burns and Allen, things like that, where they had an actual Bob Hope. They had a band, they had an announcer, and then they had the sketches, Jack Benny. So it's kind of taking that format, bringing it back to radio, but updating it so that they're current day references.
So I just want to say that all the production is Cal Ball. He chooses the music, he produces all of it. It's we're just so astonished at our wonderful luck to have met Cal as artists, but also, and then we became a family, like a friends. Just it's just been just heaven. This is a big love fest, is what it is. You know, it's really wonderful. And then the Tiger Club is a delight. They're Baxter Robertson and everybody. And you should know Cal is also a great musician too. He plays with the Tiger Club as well. It's just unbelievable. It's just been I don't know. It's been amazing.
All right.
Sorry, that's my stomach.
Yeah, you should eat something.
Yeah.
Get something on that stomach.
Quickly.
Maybe a milk bone. Is it too early to ask, post-pandemic plans? Is this, do you see, once you guys get back on stage, do you see?
Yeah, I can't wait to get back on stage because, I mean, I've been doing it for decades, and there's never been a time, this has been the longest time I've ever been not on stage. So we're geared to be on stage, and what we want to do is go to the places that our radio stations are and perform there as benefits for the radio stations, because these stations need money, as you well know. And so that's our first order of business when we hit the gate, but we want to get out quick, because there's, like Cal said, the audience tells you what's funny. We've been doing it so long, we kind of know in our mind what's funny, but the audience will tell you what's funny where you didn't even think the funny was.
Yeah. It's just, I have been involved in performances myself a time or two, and it's just, I'm trying to imagine what the audience world is going to look like, and whether it's going to come back at once, if it's going to come back piecemeal, if it's, everybody's just going to rush out and go to comedy clubs again, or what.
Well, when we do a show, we look at it and we look at what we call the degrees of difficulty. Where, like, do they have microphones? Is the audience drunk? Is it an audience
always
of
a plus?
Drunker they are, the funnier we get.
Is it an audience of Serbian children? Where you have to adjust everything. So the fact that it's the fact that a lot of physical stuff in that point. But if you just adjust it, if it's 25 people sitting in a 100-seat theater, then you adjust it like that. If it's people outside, you adjust it. It's what you do as a performer. You think about it. You think about how to make it work. Excuse me, and you do it.
Yeah.
I think people are going to rush out to play. I think we are so hungry to play with strangers and just have fun. And I think that the second people get vaccinated, I mean, when there's enough people, it's going to be like, I think it's going to be a party. I think it's going to be I don't think people are going to be wanting to go, well, all right, I'll wait and see. No, it's like, let me out. I would have laughed. I would have played. I would have danced, sing.
Maybe, but I don't want to go into a movie theater and see King Kong versus Godzilla with the 50-50 chance that I'm going to get sick.
Well,
I think people are going to be very careful.
So what I think I hear you saying is that we'll all soon be Texas and Florida.
Yes.
Yes.
But vaccinated.
Yeah, I think with the pace of vaccinations, I sort of share Mari's optimism. I know the desire, I don't know, but I feel very strongly that the pent-up desire is there. And with the pace of vaccinations being what it is, we're up to 3.5, almost 4 million people a day. That's going to get us to, at least psychologically, I think where people will feel comfortable. And once they do, I'm with Mari, I think they're going to rush out.
Let's hope.
What about you, Matt? Are you going to rush out of your house?
Cautiously, probably.
My stomach again.
Because you never know, there might be a dog out there. So, Cal, so let me just first of all compliment you on the very high production values of the show.
Yeah.
And also, I just wanted maybe you could talk a little bit about the process and how you work and how the shows are put together.
Collaboratively. That's a think of a word.
Well, no, but
a lively discussion. Let me put it that way.
There's fighting. Don't let them.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the process, and this is truly a collaborative process. So I'm not going to be the only one to answer this question. The germ of the idea generally is coming from Michael or Mari, and which to me as a producer is that's the conjuring, and the magic is there. The ability to look out at something and go, wait a minute, I can do something with that. And so that germ of the idea comes from Michael and Mari. Then a draft is done, and they fight like hell between each other before I ever see it.
It has nothing to do with the draft.
Right. And then we will do what's referred to as a table read. It's a pretty common term. You know what that term is. And we will all get together and tear it apart, put it back together again, argue like hell about what's funny, what isn't, argue about where the line is. Is it funny enough? Is this too much? And then finally, the microphones go up.
You forgot the end. Does it make sense?
Well,
and is it grammatically correct? Because
we put it through the Cal machine, we call it, because we're like, we write it, we fight it, and then it's like, let's see what Cal says. The Cal machine goes, this is illogical, this doesn't work, and so it's really a great collaboration because it's, I don't know, I think the quality just goes way up. It's really fun.
And so once you
mistake, I dare you.
And so once you've nursed it and rehearsed it, and then what happens?
Very good. The microphones go up and we press the red button, as they used to say in the old recording studios, and we get after it. And we do it until we like the timing, until the characters are captured. And this is where, of course, Mike and Mari go to work. They define these characters. And oftentimes what they think the character is going to be prior to the mics going up is not at all what it ends up as. So for me, this has been an incredibly fascinating process and a learning process for me is to watch these two work. They go so far as they'll do it 3 or 4 times and they'll go, yeah, let's switch parts. And suddenly that's magical and it works immediately and voices are found. And it's just one of those things where you kind of know when you got it. Sometimes it happens very quickly. Other times it can go as far as, you know what, this thing is not quite as written as it should be. And we're going to take it back. We're going to beat up on it some more.
Right.
So anyway.
So do you act as a producer? Are you saying, hey guys, let's do this or let's do that? Or is it, is it a democracy? Is it benevolent dictatorship, or how you know?
It's two
I think
against
describe
one.
it more as chaos.
I
Okay,
think it's 2 against 1.
2 against 1. All right.
But we won't tell you which 2 against which one.
Yeah, you have to guess.
No, it's actually,
Shifting alliances.
it's beautifully collaborative. And what's really been beautiful from the beginning is that we serve the peace, we serve the idea, and nobody's ego it's never been a, they call it pissing contest. This is mine, I wrote it, it's gonna be, it's always like, well, oh God, it's just not, what's going on here? And then, but that's why sometimes like, well, try it. You here, switch scripts. And then it's like, when it's this magical moment where we all go, that's it. Sometimes it's alive immediately, but sometimes it's kind of like, oh, it's not working. What's here? And we play, and I think that's been the best part of it. That really there's just no there's no nonsense going on with egos.
But
Well,
I think
that's a remarkably well-adjusted attitude for comedians.
Yes,
yes.
truly it is. But let me just say this. This started as a love story. Michael and I met and fell in love. And we started writing together. It's kind of like a joyful thing that we do together. And then we would dream like, oh, wouldn't it be neat to do a radio show? And we would write sketches. It's just kind of what, I don't know, it's organically who we are. That's how we play together. And then we would we would tape them on the telephone, and we just sit and listen to them. Like, imagine if it were a radio show. Isn't that funny that it kind of like came, and then we were doing the stage, but then it turned into the radio show because the pandemic made it so too. So it's kind of an interesting, and then we met Cal, and then Cal was like, wow, what a cool guy. And then we couldn't believe how he really got the rhythm. He wasn't a comic as far as we knew. He was, but his musical mind, and he's tremendously creative. His rhythm when he was taping and adding sounds and pacing it, we were blown away. So this has just been like this love snowball. It's been amazing.
And I think that the difference is that you've got 3 people with 3 different backgrounds. Mari is a graduate of the New York, what is it?
American Academy.
American Academy.
I'm an actor
in New York. I've been an improviser forever. I've studied with all the old Spolin, started with Committee Workshop. Cal is a producer and a performer as well. So you're taking 3 different ways of looking at it. I go after it from an improviser's point of view. Mari goes after it from an actor's point of view. Cal goes after it from a producer and a sound point of view. So you take all these 3 people together, and that comes up with the finished product.
Well, and for mine, Mari went to the American Academy. Mine is a product of a misspent youth. Something that, Matt, you know about. You have worked in cartoons. And all of this comedic timing, I think the funny part was, at least for me personally, is as I began working on this, I realized that I had never forgotten anything I'd ever seen in a cartoon. And you've worked on Tom and Jerry, all the Warner Brothers stuff, all of that timing and all of that comedy was still to this day, to me, perfect. And how it is done and rendered and produced. And so a lot of those sensibilities.
Yeah, cartoons are kind of as over the top as they can be, the better usually. I used to get notes like, you didn't hurt the kitty enough.
I love that one. That's in my library of great ever.
That should be the title of your autobiography.
Hey, the podcast, name of the podcast.
And then you just have to think of new ways to hurt the kitty, I guess. That's what comedy is all about.
By the way, folks, for those of you watching, it's a cartoon. It's Tom and Jerry.
No actual
at the top echelons.
No actual kitties were hurt in the making.
Yeah, no actual kitties.
I would then like to add that after we actually record it, that's when the real work comes, because Cal will spend 6-8 hours on a piece. He'll start sourcing, like with the Conways, as you can, when you hear it, each laugh is specific to the line that was just done, and the amount of laughter between each line is purposely thought out. So
yeah, now talk about that a little bit, Cal, because I listening to that sketch, the laughter at the end is very sitcom-ish. And, you can hear like kind of crest of the wave and some other kind of spontaneous stuff happening in that. And that must have been, is that something that you created, or how did you got that in a can somewhere? How do you just spray that on there? How does that work?
Yes to all of the above. Those are great questions. The biggest challenge is making it sound like a sitcom audience.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you do this, and you have done this, you've got 10,000 files of laughter and applause, maybe 25, maybe 20, 25,000. Now you have to go and find one that sounds like I need 250 people in a particular acoustic environment, because that sound of sitcom laughter is a sound.
Yes, it
and
is.
Sitcoms shared that sound for years across all of these properties. Matter of fact, they're so good at it in LA. I remember as a kid watching a documentary, and these guys are sitting in a large format console and they're watching the television show, and they push a fader, push a fader, push a fader, push a fader, because they've got it all set, and they can introduce the laughter as they see fit. So the challenge was to source that. And then you have to judge by, and this is where we all work together, where are the laughs in that piece?
Right.
It's a very interesting piece to work on, because we all agreed that on the page, it was a little flat compared
Some
to
of us agreed. Two against one again.
But we won't tell you which 2 against 1 that was.
Yeah, because sitcom laughter is, I mean, a little different than radio laughter, I guess, because you've got the visual element, and people are tittering and noticing things happening, and they start to get the ball rolling, and then everybody is roaring, and that's not something that you see, but I mean, you can see it in your mind's eye when you think about, a sitcom laughter. And of course, for years somebody came up with a laugh machine that had like pedals and things to push on it, and that was the sound of sitcom laughter, really, on a lot of shows. Name one, Gilligan's Island or the Brady Bunch or whatever. Those '60s sitcoms. They used that same machine and across all those shows, so that sort of laughter really became sort of standardized and something that you expected to hear, I guess. But anyway, I think you really captured the flavor of that.
Yeah, the theater of the mind thing. And sometimes you just get lucky. So at the beginning, the first line is, Kellyanne, I'm home. And so the audience, it's a well-known sitcom, you want them to applaud because the actor just came out on stage. Michael came out on stage. But I got lucky because this particular piece of laughter, laughter, applause, died down, and then it built back up again. And it allowed me to, the theater of the mind is that Marty walks on stage as Kellyanne.
Or somebody's mugging or something, they're making
something. But it really was, and we can all remember seeing that as like, my God, the actress's name is now escaping me, from The Honeymooners.
Audrey Meadows.
Yeah, Audrey Meadows comes out on stage. Well, the crowd goes crazy. So yeah, good stuff.
It's beautiful. He makes it so multidimensional. He creates the worlds with the sounds. It's like we're Dorothy and we walk into Oz when he gets a hold of the sketch. It's beautiful.
I mean, it brings back to things like the Fireside Theater. I remember just sitting there with headphones, listening to that thing over and over and over and over until I memorized the whole thing, because there's so much that you can listen to it over and over and over.
Right. Nick Danger.
Yeah. Right.
The line between reality and satire is pretty much blurred. I mean, when everything, although it's kind of calmed down, I got to say, in the last couple of months. But I mean, the Onion headlines now are really the actual New York Times, Washington Post headlines now. And so, how does one kind of mine the comedy gold out of a world that is already comedy gold? I mean, does it lose its punch a little bit because everything is just so wacky, or I guess my question is how do you surf that way?
I think you think of what your point of view is, and the point of view I think of our show is not necessarily what's happening in politics. It's not a that was the week that was or John Oliver. It's how the politics of the day affect the individual. How does it affect the everyman? And so, as listening to it, you are the everyman. So when you're listening to something about AT&T and being on a phone tree forever, everybody can relate to that. That's not going to go away by politics. So we're looking at the little things in life, and sometimes it might be that you can't even turn on your TV because you flinch every time you turn on your TV, something horrible happens. But it's how it affects the individual rather than kind of a report card on society.
Right. Well, guys, thank you so much. I'm just going to say that the Mike and Mari show is on KZZH here on Saturday and Sunday nights at 9 p.m. And it's also on another time, which I don't have right.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
It's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I was just thinking of, at 2000 hours, whenever that is. Get out your 24-hour clock. I can never.
Those of you in the military.
I was not in the military, no. I'm not good military material. I can never navigate the 24-hour clock. So it's either, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's always on.
Yeah.
Get yourself.
10 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays here on KZZH. Guys, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having
Appreciate it. And good luck in all your endeavors in the future. And thanks for being on this show, whatever it is.
Thank you, Mr. Dar.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Thanks for joining us today on Podzar. Our special guests today were Michael Bossier, Mari Magaloni, and Cal Ball. The Mike and Mari show can be heard Saturday and Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on KZZH. Access Humboldt. Local voices through community media.